This is the 12th video in a series showing how to set up, configure, test, and debug the MVS Toolkit. In this video, we'll cover how to activate an older version of the MVS Toolkit, specifically 2.2.2 and earlier. Note that this subject matter is primarily for Rocket personnel, but if you're a partner or end user, it's still a good idea to have some understanding of this process, as it will probably help the support person help you. The activation requirement was removed in Toolkit version 2.2.3 build 122. If someone's running on an older version, they might lose their activation for a variety of reasons: migration, machine crash, whatever. First, try like heck to get them to upgrade to the current version of the toolkit. Feel free to warn them that the main reason the activation requirement was removed from the product is the fragility of the old toolkit activation server. Someday it's going to fail in a way from which we can't recover. At that point, people running older versions of the toolkit who lose their activation are simply out of luck. For as long as that activation server lives, here are the steps for toolkit activation. Determine the toolkit version by looking at MVS install info properties file. Get a product key from the toolkit activation website. Get a manual activation key from the website. This process can be a little problematic for several reasons. You'll probably need a fresh product key from our D3 prod system. The codes received could have been entered incorrectly because of the dialog's tendency to retain leading spaces when pasting keys into the dialogues. When entering these, it's a good idea to click the text box in question and hit the backspace a few times before you paste. Or our Toolkit XDMS activation server could be impaired. The first step is to log on to the old D3 prod system. Log to the BA account if you don't end up there immediately upon login. At TCL, enter MVSTK followed by a space and the D3 system ID. You'll see a list of MVSTK product keys with their platform and version. Clean this out by using Ctrl-E until the list is empty, then Ctrl-X and F to file the item. Next, go to the Toolkit activation website to get the product key. Enter the D3 system ID. Enter an email address associated with that D3 system ID. Select Linux or Windows from the drop-down. Select the Toolkit version from the drop-down. Then press Submit. At this point, a 25-character product key will be displayed. If you get a failure message instead, there's probably something wrong with the Toolkit activation server. Support folks, talk to engineering or some other Toolkit expert at this point, as the solution for that contains information I can't present publicly, like the activation server's IP address and root password. Once you have the product key, go to the Toolkit activation dialog on the user system and enter the product key. You'll be given a 50-digit installation ID. Now that you have your installation ID, you need to go back to the website and navigate to the manual activation page. Enter the product key, enter the installation ID, and press Submit. This will give you your 42-digit activation key. Go back to the Toolkit activation dialog and enter the activation key. On Windows, you'll need to press Next to submit the activation key. On this slide, you see that the activation was successful. On this slide, however, you see some failures. The first is the failure of the manual activation website to get an activation key from the Toolkit activation server. This is the time to go follow the steps to reset the Toolkit activation server and try again. If it still fails, you'll need engineering's help. The second is the failure of the system to activate. This can happen if you forget to clear out the product key on D3 prod, but if you did that already, it's time for engineering's help. That concludes this video series, for now. I recommend that you check this channel for any new videos that may have been added after this series was originally created. Also, you may want to check out the older videos we created that were added to this playlist. There's one on SSL for MVSP and another on HTTPS for the MVS Toolkit. If you have any questions about any of the content we've covered so far, please contact Rocket D3 Support.